Welcome, 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 everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk Season 7, Episode 23, with the final few months of the NHL just around the corner, starting up again tonight. We are back to bring you the latest, the greatest, and all coverage from all things hockey. Evan, how are you doing, and how was your Olympic time off?
Well, you're saying from NHL hockey, right? Because there was a lot of other hockey.
No, I know.
It was good. It was enjoyable. I will say we'll get into it in a little bit. Not as excited about the Olympics. It had nothing to do with Canada, and then I'm from Canada, as I actually thought about the tournament. We'll explain that later. But I would say that this past weekend I actually got a cold and been kind of really rough. It started hitting me Sunday. Really nailed me on Monday. Tuesday was rough, and just recovering today a bit.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. We hope you're feeling better. I know what that's like. I believe it was back in January. I was a little under the weather, and so I was not at my best, but I will do my best to lift you up today and bring you to the promised land so you can put the puck in the net. So that's going to be
Well, hey, we got lots of stuff to talk about.
We do have a lot of stuff to talk about, but I think what we want to get into first, and before you guys, we get into all the nitty gritty, is remember that we are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are on X/Twitter, on Instagram. Go give us a follow. We are on Facebook. We're posting regularly, as well as our articles, and on YouTube. And we have a great website you guys should go check out with our former guests on there, as well as articles regularly. Grant Cummings writes all things Boston Bruins. I put out weekly updates. We've got some articles from previous writers that have been with our team, and we appreciate it. And thank you again to our sponsors, Flow Hockey, Pro Hockey Group, Warhounds, Web Design, Puckpedia, and of course, Penny Billionaires. And Facebook, if you're listening, Mark Zuckerberg, we have a partnership with Penny Billionaires for that great intro. Now, we are working behind the scenes on a few little things, but we appreciate you trying not to discredit us for the fact that we have a partnership to share that song.
We got copyright license. Come on, Zuckerberg. Like, I'm not going to be as licensed as my partner.
We're working through the nitty gritty. This is what happens behind the scenes.
I think it's been over 100 episodes that they've tried to block us. And then when we send something to them and give them the permission, tell them all the stuff, explain, nothing changes. There's no real person. It's all AI, and they don't really care. It's a waste. It just but if you're following us on Facebook,
however,
we thank you.
I agree. And however, I will say that even if it is AI doing the thing, we always say our please and thank you, so that if our AI overlords ever take over, they keep us on a show so that we can continue talking all things hockey, provided the game is still on. Anyways, Evan, I've dangled on too much a little bit. Let's get into the Olympics. Team USA, a historic win for them, 2-1 in overtime. Jack Hughes is going to be remembered by many, millions. He was recognized tonight in the game between New Jersey and Buffalo. The kid played unreal. We had the Hughes brothers play. Quinn looked incredible. We can make a case that he potentially could win the Norris this year, let alone be one of the best defensemen next to Cale Makar in the NHL. We had the Tkachuk brothers, albeit they didn't do as much. They still brought the physicality and the emotion. Austin Matthews, the captain, the second Toronto Maple Leafs captain to bring Team USA, of course, Sundin for Sweden, his country, to a gold medal in the Olympics. And people talked about, should this guy even be a captain? What are your thoughts on the overall game from the U.S. side and what we saw from the U.S. team and the credit that Bill Guerin is due for putting this team together?
When they put that team together, I think we all discussed that was a team that was full of the best goaltending in the world and that would compete with Russia if they had a team, and also some of the best defense. So their defense and their goaltending, their front, I mean, they were deep in their lines. They were good back checking, 200-foot game, but it wasn't superstar forwards that they needed. They built their team to beat Canada and to stop the powerful, high-powered offense. That was the whole thing they built around. If some of you are out there, you guys remember back in the days in the 80s, Calgary Flames did everything. If they were going to get out of their division, of the old Smite division, they had to beat Edmonton. And to do that, they had to build a team that could find a way to beat the Edmonton Oilers. And that's what they did in 1986 and in 1989, the only 2 years out of 5 trips to the Stanley Cup, actually 6 technically, in order to be able to do it. And that's exactly what the U.S. did. So good on them, man. People got to recognize, I think, in these games, you can't automatically win a game. You still got to put in 100% effort. And let's face it, the moment that Josh Morrissey was hurt, they had no more offensive defensemen in Canada. They only took 2 guys with them. And when Crosby went down, they were basically left with McKinnon, Celebrini, and McDavid. And McKinnon was dealing with an injury of some sort still, even though he still played well. But he wasn't going to be able to drive his own line the same way he normally would. And so that affected them, and they became a one-line team. Essentially, they became the Oilers.
Which is disappointing because you think the best of the best. You're supposed to have incredible players. Now, they were, of course, missing Crosby for the last little bit due to that Ratio's good as hit. And, of course, Crosby had a post-interview. He's going to be out a few weeks, I think up to 4 right now.
4 minimum.
According. So, of course, they did everything they could. They wanted to get him to play. And what I heard also, I think Elliot Friedman reported on his podcast that they even had other teams kind of reach out and say, how do we get Crosby to play? Is there anything we can do? Is there any kind of tool or medicine or any kind of methodology that we can implement to help Crosby even play for a little bit? Even 5 minutes of Crosby is elite. And I always go back to the bubble when Tampa Bay had Steven Stamkos come play for only a few minutes, score a big goal, of course. But I mean, that just the emotion. Or if you recall, Evan, when Zdeno Chara played with Boston and he was injured for a while and he sat on the bench and he just, opened the door up for the players, brought them in, cheering them on, talking to them. I mean, you cannot discount the emotion and the power and the influence of leadership that these guys bring, right? They know what it takes to win. They know what it means to be at the top of their game, and they know the roller coaster that goes through the emotions. So we'll get to Canada in just a sec because there's a lot to dissect there. I just wanted to mention a cool little story I heard over the last little bit because, again, Jack Hughes, folklore here for many, many years. Congrats to the U.S. in 46 years to the day when they beat the Soviets, Miracle on Ice, to win. Incredible shot. Nothing Bennington could have done. Connor Hellebuck stood on his head. I want to talk about how he really or essentially quieted the naysayers. He knows how to compete.
Yeah.
There was a cool thing in the movie with Kurt Russell for Miracle on Ice. And in the original movie, if you recall, there was a defenseman for that team that was cut on the list. Do you know what his name was? His name was Jack Hughes. He was a real player that was cut from that team, from that 1980s Olympic squad. Now,
that's a good one.
They're not related, but it's a really cool, neat piece of history to connect it. So I'm going to be going back and watching that movie. I did watch the clip, but it does show the name Jack Hughes on that list. So all that are wondering, go check it out. We don't want to get monetized for that, but go ahead.
I have to rebuttal on something that you said here.
Okay.
It's not, and my rebuttal is I saw it different, okay? On Binnington, that it wasn't on Binnington. Yes, because Cale Makar blew it. McDavid tried to press through. McKinnon was out, like Celebrini was off. I think it was McKinnon out there with him. I can't remember all the guys.
That was McDavid pinched quickly, trying to take a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1, and of course Jack Hughes was kind of skating backwards, and he's not really known as a defensive forward yet, but he has the skills, he has the speed, the foot speed, and so McDavid thought he can outplay him. The puck just awkwardly bounces. Makar is going back to his end. He's 1-on-1. He's trying to battle it out. And, of course, if he gets that pass...
Makar fell instantly, though. There was like 3 seconds after the puck.
He missed kind of the pass like to get it.
But it sounded like you said he was going back further. I didn't actually see him back there. So
Kyle says Bennington cost my Bruins a championship. Good to see him lose.
Hey Kyle, how you doing? And we're going to talk about some rumors a little later for your Bruins. Okay, so Bennington, if you watch on that play, okay, I don't blame him. Okay, like I don't put the blame on the loss on him. He made some good saves. He didn't have to make a lot. He just
Yes.
had to play a good game. So, but to say he did his job, he overplayed on that winning goal. He overplayed. He was out by about a half a foot when he pushed on there. And I noticed that was his issue throughout the tournament. So for me, my only rebuttal is he didn't cost him the game, but a better goalie, which by the way was 3 times the goalie on the other end, 3 times the goalie, because they should have actually won. So I actually don't even blame that play on the 3, because it never should have went there with that many shots Canada had
Yes.
on the play. But they overplayed their superstar line of Celebrini, McKinnon, and McDavid.
I
way
agree.
too much.
John Cooper fell into the knob lock thing.
Yeah.
And then, Hellebuck was phenomenal. I agree.
Oh.
He played the game out of like the paddle save. I mean, he's got to get that framed and put it in his house. The play where it made Werenski beat McKinnon to lose the puck. I got to admit, Evan, if people don't know who Werenski is, and I know that Columbus doesn't get as much airtime as other teams, but if he played in any Canadian market, he would be a stud. The guy played unreal. He was just a quiet, steady at home defenseman, could move the puck up and down the ice. People don't realize how good he is. And people talked about when Seth Jones left Columbus in that big trade for Ryan Johansson and the center for defensemen. Look what he was able to do post Seth Jones. That was a top pairing unit that beat Toronto in the bubble, and yet here you are still playing there. And so they don't do well this year. Keep an eye on Werenski for a lot of calls. A lot of teams would go after.
Yeah,
Werenski.
but they're not moving him. I mean, if they had a winning team, he'd be in the Norris vote all the time. So I think Werenski, Quinn Hughes, and Hellebuck were the reasons that they had such a great tournament. I mean, 2 defensemen and a goalie. How do you beat that? How do you beat that? And if we can just say this, I think what we're seeing right now from Quinn Hughes. He has never had, outside of just maybe 2-3 years with Vancouver, he's never had a team this good around him like he has in Minnesota now, and like he had with Team Canada, Team USA. And seeing him with these guys makes you notice. I think he's taking home the Norris this year. I really do. I think Quinn Hughes, and this is where Makar has been fortunate, because the moment he stepped in, that team was ready to go and already positioned right from the get-go. So nothing. I put Makar. If tomorrow I had to rate them as the best players, I still put Makar, but Makar is the Paul Coffey, and Quinn Hughes is the Ray Bork.
Okay.
So if I can, because Quinn Hughes can play defense, Cale Makar can play some defense, but he is an elite offense. Whereas I don't feel like Quinn Hughes at that same top level as Makar.
That's fair. You guys can let us know your thoughts. I think they're both on par, excellent, both defensively and offensively gifted players. I think with the fresh start for Quinn Hughes, and I mean, look what he did for Vancouver and how well he played there, but I think a fresh start in Minnesota has really helped them. Don't forget even Matt Boldy coming over, a young player who looked kind of shaky at first. Of course, it's the jitters. You're new to it. But I really like what essentially what the U.S. did. And regardless of what you feel about it, the team was able to win. They
were the best.
Together. And regardless even of the politics, they got to celebrate. Now, the one thing I will say is that, of course, the NHL is back today. I wonder how some of those players are feeling. Now, there are teams like Minnesota, like Dallas with Mikko Rantanen who played, because we forget that there's other players for other countries that were represented, that they could take a few weeks off and take a break, or if they need it, Mikko Rantanen's out for a few weeks due to being injured. Kevin Fiala, of course, long-term injury, even though they just acquired Panarin, there's a few changes there. But I really believe that come next Olympics, it's going to be fascinating to see who makes that team, because people are already debating, on my feed at least, what Team Canada is going to look like. But what I think needs to be determined is, what are you going to bring back with Team USA? Because Quinn Hughes most likely will be there. Most of these players will probably be a little bit older, but you could still bring them back. Of course, there'll be some younger. And I want to shout out, because they may not get a lot of credit, or he gets a lot of credit, Jake Sanderson, Evan. Ottawa Senators should be very happy with what they saw there because, like Zach Werenski, a quiet defenseman who can put the puck in the net. He's been touted as being an electric player. He's really come into his own. He was able to play the speed of the game. He was able to keep up. And it just goes to show you Ottawa has a good thing on the back end. Now, they could use a right-hand shot defenseman. We'll get into that later. But on the left side, they seem set, and he's just going to be phenomenal. So it'll be interesting to see. And I want to get into Canada. But before we do, I know Zilstra says a number of players are not back with their teams yet. I think most have come back. I'm pretty sure most are back unless they're off for whatever reason. Like Austin Matthews, I believe, is playing tonight when they're playing Tampa Bay Lightning. Most have returned.
In fact, McDavid's playing tonight too.
Yeah.
But I'm interested if you know which ones you've heard aren't actually dressing.
Beyond the injured one. I just know beyond the injured ones, right? So I want to know who would manage the coach. So I want to get into Canada because it's not that I dislike the selection. I think that all the power for Doug Armstrong to bring in the team that he did because they did get to the gold medal round. Yeah. But I do believe that once Josh Morrissey got injured, and of course, things happen, and then of course you don't expect Sidney Crosby to go down, but you got to be able to fill it. And what we saw with Macklin Celebrini, and that kid is a stud. And I know you've talked about how you've been watching more game this year, but he really he elevated his game, and Cooper trusted him and put him into positions to succeed. Imagine this kid coming in, and you're playing with McDavid, and of course Tom Wilson at the beginning, but also it got moved around a little bit. Wilson got dropped, and I really like that Bennett, Wilson, Marchand line, although Marchand was very heavily injured. and you look at the teams, and I really believe that Schaefer or a Bouchard or a two other players, one other defenseman that could move the puck and down the net, up and down the ice, should have been written. And I think all the power to Parayko being there and Drew Doughty, but they were a little slower and they had a hard time keeping up with the game. Now, the one player Travis
Sanheim, even when
I actually think Sanheim had a good tournament. I thought he was okay. I think out of if you're rating them, well, I mean, given what you're working with. Because Cale Makar can play 30 minutes,
but all these guys need to play great. Not the only people that can be okay should be like a Bo Horvat. He can be okay. He's there to win faceoffs. He's there to create plays. In fact, Bo Horvat was probably one of the better players.
100%.
Canada, but something like
not
Bennett,
utilized enough. Not utilized.
But the D's job was to move that puck up. Like a Parayko,
100%.
You can't be making a 28-foot path up the ice that keeps getting.
I agree, and I think they worried about his defensive lapses. But you know what I'm going to say right now, Evan? I'm going to say something right now. That Boldy goal that happened, that was a defensive lap by Makar and Taves. I'm sorry, but those guys.
I was not happy with Taves this tournament.
I think Taze struggled a little bit in this tournament, and I think I don't know what was going on.
Okay.
There was a lot of moments. Go ahead.
Let's do a breakdown for a moment. I know going into the tournament, there was a lot of talk. And yes, Wonder, I saw that you had Bouchard. I would have taken Bouchard and Jeff Chikrin. And I would have sat Parayko, and I would have not taken Travis Sanheim. So
I would have taken Doughty. I understand why they did.
And so one of the things that I would say about this when people said about Bouchard, because you got Cale Makar there and Josh Morrissey, when Morrissey went down, now you can put in Bouchard. Do you know what I mean? And what they never had, and Cale Makar didn't have this, there was no shot from the point. No shot. Evan Bouchard creates the space with the slap shot. And I think what happens is people don't realize how much he plays and how often that they only see his mistakes and don't see what he does good. And what I noticed is seeing all the mistakes from all these superstar players on not just Canada, even Sweden and stuff like that. Around it. But my problem is, I'm going to ask you this now. Right. Why do you think they took Devon Toews?
Because of the partnership he has with Makar and the history and success he's had playing with him.
Okay, which I would agree. We go back to Chris Kunitz playing with Sidney Crosby, same thing, right? Kobe Armstrong. Okay, But then why don't we take Zach Hyman to go play with Hyman?
I agree.
Could you imagine you had a Zach Hyman and then you throw Celebrini, who is a 4 times better Nugent Hopkins?
I agree. And you know who I would have sat? And like, I like Bennett, but I also think Marchand should have stayed. I understand your ownage to Marchand. He did not look 100% at all. He barely looked 60%. And it sounds like he may be shut down for the rest of the season. That's how bad it was. I understand the honor to represent your country, and I think it's a great opportunity. But you needed to bring somebody else. And the reason I agree with Wanderer about now taking Schaefer, and I was very adamant about taking Schaefer, is look at what Celebrini was able to do. People talk about, well, big stage, big presence. The kid came in after only playing 35 games last year in the OHL and has lit it up and is a Calder favorite this year. Macklin Celebrini, I get that he has 1 year, but you got to bring in some youth because the next Olympics in 4 years, you want these guys to feel comfortable and experienced. Connor Bedard, you should have brought him. Maybe he could have won a faceoff because Canada struggled with faceoffs immensely. And you just think like,
well, Bedard's not good at faceoffs, but I mean, anyone could have won a faceoff because like McDavid was terrible at doing that, right?
100%.
But Bedard, now imagine if you had Bedard playing with McKinnon now on that second line. You have a shot. What did they lack? A shot. I mean, Celebrini's got a good shot. But nobody on this team has a shot like Connor Bedard. I mean, like Bedard has one of the most amazing. I mean, just look at his goal against Connor Hellebuck, right between the legs. You can't even see that thing the way he flexes that stick. Incredible. So here's my thing. I get the Schaefer, even though I agree that the feeling is he probably would have done a lot even as a 7th, right? But my only thing is he hasn't had pressure. Celebrini's been a Hobie Baker. He's been in the Final Four. He didn't have a lot of pressure for a long time. And with a young guy, Canada has never done that, right? Even Sidney Crosby didn't go. This was an anomaly with Celebrini because of what they said his 200-foot game. But fair. Unfortunately, Crosby had something to do with Celebrini getting the nod because of his last World Championship. Yeah. But it's interesting because what happened to Bedard and all he's done for Team Canada previously, and even though they said the injury had nothing to do with it, I think it was Armstrong's way of just not bringing him. He doesn't like him. He doesn't like Bouchard. I think they were close on Zach Hyman, but it was already too late. But you know what? If they could have Schaefer, Chychrun, Bouchard, and then also brought in Bedard and Zach Hyman, they've been easy to switch out players when you look at it, right? And I know, and if I can say this to everybody, I know Pawel and I are sitting, and some of you guys are talking about it. The only reason we should be allowed to talk about this is because we said this going into the Olympics. Yeah. And it's the exact thing that they struggled with.
So Wanderer asked honest question, how do they choose coach and why is Doug Armstrong? Doug Armstrong has a lot of pull in the NHL. He is very popular and well liked in a lot of circles. And although he's stepping away from the St. Louis role as GM, as we've discussed, he's most likely potentially going to be open to another position. Now, I don't want to start rumors, but think of maybe Toronto as a place that he would consider going if things don't work out with Brad Treliving and things don't work out with Toronto making the postseason, because they do not want to miss the postseason 1 year to this year potentially, let alone next year. So keep an eye on for that. Now, he has a lot of pull. He has a lot of leeway. I think the challenge in this situation, Wanderer, is it came out from 4 nations. They were successful at 4 nations, and that is why they went with it. However, the Olympics had the 3-on-3, and I think that is why it kind of faltered, because on 5-on-5, Edmonton, Team Canada was looking like it would be. I don't think he'll be picking again. I think he'll be somebody else, but I do believe, barring any incident, I think John Cooper is back. I think he has enough pull in the NHL. Longest serving coach, 2-time, multiple Stanley Cup champion. I mean, the guy has won, and I could see him being picked there. However, he was outcoached in a few moments by Mike Sullivan. And so keep an eye out for potentially what could happen. Does Crosby play, or is Crosby now somebody who's kind of an advisor role who comes in. You saw Dubas there. Does he take on that role, given everything he's had and experience in the next 3 to 4 years when we get to that point, right?
Okay, so let me give the breakdown. So we'll talk about Crosby in a second. So let me give the breakdown of basically, because I see Wonders is asking, and it's a great question. So first of all, understanding that Hockey Canada appoints the general manager. So that's Hockey Canada that does that. They do that first. They pick, and it's usually a high-profile NHL exec all the time, okay? And they happen to be Doug Armstrong. Now, he leads the overall program, is what he's doing. The GM then brings in a management group, and then together they choose the head coach. And if I can just say this for you, Wanderer, John Cooper was named head coach in June 2024 for the Olympics at the same time as they picked the Four Nations face-off. This is something I just dug into recently that I did not know. They had done both. And then, of course, from there, then he chooses the group around him with input from others. And then all of that has to actually pass by the Canadian Olympic Committee. They have to be able to agree to the approach.
100%. And so Timu asked, why hasn't any talk about the fact that Canada literally didn't even deserve to be in the finals? Evan, would you like to answer?
Deserve to be in the finals.
Well, with so kind of the questionable call on Nathan McKinnon on the high stick, and then of course being down versus Czechia as well.
Okay, hang on, Laszlo, Timu. How many players were on the ice in that Finnish game? Even remember that?
No, that wasn't the Finnish game. That was the Czechia game.
Sorry. Yeah, Czechia. Sorry, my apology. There was seven. 7 players were on the ice.
6 celebrated.
And like, so how does Canada not deserve to be there? That doesn't.
Well, that was a missed call. There was also a missed. What's it called? Yeah. There was a missed too many men in the America game. However,
every game has all of those things.
I agree, but you can't be given a 5-on-3 and what's it called and not be able to put it in the net. I think that was one of the worst 5-on-3s I've ever seen.
It was terrible.
And you have McKinnon, McDavid, Makar, Celebrini on the ice. How do you not put the puck in the net there?
Well, I think
John Cooper needs to change it up. I understand that's your top unit power play. You got Sam Reinhart in. You're playing him 6+ minutes. What are you doing? You have the best of the best.
Reinhart was good.
You need Marner out there. You need these guys who are skilled. So, Timo says Marchand McKinnon pulled the stick up on Mikkola, wasn't called until still directly at the ref. Again, offside goal.
It wasn't an offside goal. That was not an offside goal. That goal was legit, man. I don't even know what you're looking at.
Was it the Macklin Celebrini at the end there with the
that's
skate?
What I think. I think that's what he's calling. Yeah, that was you. When you don't notice the offside, it's got to be obvious proof, and it looked like it was exact timing when I looked at those reviews on there. With it.
You know what? I thought it was best on best. I enjoyed the competition. I want to see more. Of course, not everyone can win gold. Props to Finland for winning bronze. I think that was a big deal for the team.
Oh, that was awesome.
It was incredible. I watched both games, right? And it really opened up after a while. But I really believe that in general, we waited way too long, over 12 years for best on best, Evan. And I really believe that we need it more often. Now, hopefully we have the 6 nations or 8. Well, I mean, it's getting 4 nations, whatever, but more.
It's 8 nations.
We do 8 nations. We need Russia back in it, or the players that represent Russia, if you're going to do, because you can't not have Russia. Like, I know they talked to Ovi and said, did you watch the Olympics? And he said, no, not even. I just think you need him back. And Dimu says, when a dude is fully across the line and you have to use 1/56th of his skate on the line and then it's offside, LOL. I think it was poor calls are going to happen, or that's Zilcher said, poor calls are going to happen. It's literally part of fast.
Exactly. Absolutely.
You know what I think happened? I think the problem is that the European game is very different than the NHL North American game. And I think that is where there was a bit of discrepancy. I do think the reps were a little bit far worse than I've seen in the NHL.
Oh, no way. I thought they were one of the best that they've ever had in the
I
Olympics.
disagree. I think they missed a lot of things, and I think that they tried to make calls that they didn't. And it's a hard job. I get it.
No, but you're joking. You think they're worse than the NHL of what you saw in the Olympics?
Well, they came over. Some of the refs came over.
No. But you thought the officiating was worse than the NHL.
I did not think it was good.
In the Olympic tournament. Does that include women too?
Yep. Women was a bit better. I think the women was better.
Yeah, man. I did not see it that way. I thought they actually let them play NHL hockey. Is what I actually felt like they were.
Yeah, they did, but they missed a lot. Like the too many men. You got to be calling too many men.
Okay, hang on. Too many men though. How many people missed it? The coaches missed it. Nobody got it. Otherwise,
we're fans. I get the coaches. That is a weird anomaly. But when
fans didn't even see it. No one knew about it till after the game. Nobody knew about it, right? And
I agree. But I'm not even talking about that game. I'm not even about the Czechia game.
Okay, but go like two or three, right? 2 or 3 bad calls a game. The NHL has 5 to 7 bad calls a game.
Yeah, but we're used to it. So Timu says Evan's take tonight's got to be bait. I'm not a salmon falling for the bear's mouth in the river. Go vibe. I just think that it was an interesting thing. I think you're going to see a big shift potentially in Team Canada's approach for 2030, and even for the quote unquote Four Nations tournament that's going to happen in 2 years. But Evan, I want to say one thing. You can't overreact, but you also can't underreact.
Yeah.
Now that's not my job, but you have to understand whoever is in charge, whether it is John Cooper, Doug Armstrong in some capacity, Sidney Crosby, as we talked about.
Is gone.
Of course, but I'm saying whoever he recommends. Okay. What I think you need to understand is that you don't want to put too much credence because you still did get to the Olympic game and you did get to overtime.
Okay.
And so he really helped.
I think it was a wonderful tournament. Let's wrap up the Olympic talk because we've taken half a show on it. We got a lot of stuff.
Congrats to that and the women. I enjoyed the women. Go ahead.
But I need you to go back to Zill's comment she was talking about. Let's keep the comments relevant right now. And let's finish this because she put up about Crosby.
Going to happen? It's
Crosby. Let's finish with this. That's where we were going. So I saw she had made a comment and she had pulled up there. Crosby should be in 2030. I actually saw TSN make a posting around the same thing. Very interesting take because we're talking 4 years. Sid's going to be 42. I can't see Sid playing, but I can see Sid moving into some executive roles, just like Gretzky, like Yzerman, all that kind of stuff. Even if not the GM, an assistant GM. I definitely see that. And I think if Crosby's involved, and I wanted to say this, Crosby is the greatest ambassador for the game of hockey, I think, ever. Wayne Gretzky was tremendous, but I think Sidney Crosby has done far more. Folks, he just got back. They have a Penguins youth clinic.
Yeah,
and the guys out there volunteering and taping sticks, out there with the kids, signing autographs. It doesn't matter that he's injured. He could have actually used it as an excuse. And the guy's still out there. So, man, I love the guy. I can't say nothing great other than great. And I believe he belongs still in the top 5 of all time.
For sure. And I want to just make one comment. Grant, Canada needs to take note, play the kids. Times have changed. I agree. And Zilsher talks about McKenna killing it. 8-point night. The kid has been phenomenal. All right. So we're going to get into NHL news because there's been some rumblings. We're back into the season. We had a trade, Evan. Looks like Brent Kulak's on the move again to the Colorado Avalanche for a second-round pick as well as Samuel Girard. It's a 2028 second-round pick. Kulak, of course, a little older, 32. He gives him that veteran presence. Your thoughts on this trade? Because for Pittsburgh, this is phenomenal. They now have, I believe, 20 picks in the next 3 years of the draft ready to go to pick. So they've really stocked up. They get a young defensive forward who, is more defensive minded, but, he has some experience. You're loading up the cupboards, especially with Crosby out right now. Of course, Malkin's going to step in and having to fill that role as the top line center. But Pittsburgh's still in it. They could potentially make the playoffs. But Kyle Dubas has really done some neat piece of work, especially after trading that Jari contract and making this trade happen for it. Your thoughts on Kulak going to Colorado for that depth piece, as well as them clearing up some space because they needed cap space. And I think there's rumblings about Nazem Kadri there. And for Pittsburgh, and what's next?
So first of all, Gerard had to leave because they needed to unload money. So this was a hockey trade, true and true, for them. And so, they are trying to load up. They're trying to rebuild. Colorado, they didn't need him as a number 4. They needed him on that last line. So on that last line, makes sense. Brett Kulak, he is a playoff performer. He always has been. That's why Edmonton picked him up.
Top 4.
Going right back to Montreal days. So I think it was a great trade. It made sense. Treliving has been rebuilding that team since Hextall. And
Treliving or Dubas, you mean?
Oh, sorry, Treliving. Dubas, sorry. I'm getting mixed up with the Toronto names. But he's doing it. The teams are not there yet, so let's not get too excited. It is still fairly
it's magic beans. Picks your magic beans.
Yeah. But right now, he's not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. Well, he came in, for that 7-year contract that he signed, he's trying to keep the team competitive while also restocking their cupboard. Zylstra says Wittenbach will win Hobie Baker. McKenna's high points in the WHL will hurt his score. Otherwise, he'll probably win it. Awards are based on stats analytics using 3 previous years of play.
Yeah, and I was going to say, so on some of those comments, we will before we get into the rumors, I do want to talk a little bit more around some of those things that
for sure.
Talking about.
Timu says another day, another bad trade by the Avs for a guy who was embarrassed by Sam Steele. And he also says, now here's a guy who doesn't know about known ambassador Mikko Rantanen, who runs a golf course in Finland. So we have that trade. We also have a minor little depth trade between the New York Islanders and St. Louis Blues with Matt Luff heading over to New York organization and Julien Gauthier going to St. Louis. Both are currently in the AHL, so it's more of a system depth move. Not really much. But again, sometimes you need a fresh start just to change the scenery, and that's what this trade is. So it's good to see that this is happening, as well as Seattle, who has been very quiet, taking care of a little bit of business, extending both Ben Myers and Ryan Winterton to a 2-year contract extension.
Yeah.
Of course, Myers, 27, young defenseman, spending his time between the Kraken affiliate, Coachella Firebirds, and then, of course, 22-year-old Winterton. He's been more of a regular this year. He's got a strong two-way game. Of course, Jason Botterill liked him. But I come back to the question, and Seattle fans, let us know, what is your identity? What is your thing? Now, they're still in the playoff hunt, but what is the Seattle Kraken identity? They did go hard after Panarin. I know they want to go big game hunting, but what is it? And I am also hearing that Tyler Myers has been held off for precautionary reasons, potentially for a trade right now.
Yeah.
So that's in the works. There may be something there. So that's pretty much what's been going around the NHL. Is there anything else you wanted to
Tons, man. You just taking over the show, so you're acting like I'm not even here.
No, I'm trying my best. It's been I feel so long. I know we were on last week, but it feels like, what's it called?
Okay. Okay, so I know we're slapping everywhere here right now. So are we going to run with some of the NCAA stuff going on, or do you want to run with the rest?
Let's get to NHL first. Let's get to NHL.
Okay, you want to finish the NHL stuff. Okay, so last week we talked about some of the different guys. If you guys remember, we specifically had gotten into some of them, right? So let me just remind you. We talked about Elias Pettersson, the possibilities, Justin Falk, Travis Konechny, Nazem Kadri, Coleman, Bunting, Lindholm, and Mangiapane, which has been a big hassle because they don't want to give up much. They're going to have to pay to let them go, but they need the money. Okay, that's what we told you last week. This week, so Jordan Kyrou has given the go-ahead if he has, because he has a say, he'll have to waive his no trade. If he gets the right situation, Jordan Kyrou, look for some teams very interested in him. Also, Patrick Laine, if a team wants him, there's a chance for a deal. The Kings were looking. They inquired. They didn't find there was a fit with Montreal. So they've gone in another direction right now. So look maybe for someone like Jeff Skinner to pick him up on the cheap, even if he's sitting in the press box as an extra. Now the Bruins, Kyle's Bruins, right? They're looking for a trade partner. Now, Chicago hasn't made up their mind specifically on a few key guys. We know that they would be open to moving Connor Murphy, but Ryan Donato is someone the Bruins would like to bring in, okay? But they're not getting him for cheap from Chicago. That's the problem here. The other one, this is interesting right now. Now, Elliot Friedman has actually reported, you're talking about the Kraken, that he thinks that for the right price, Seattle will move Shane Wright. Now, I think that Seattle is a place that players are going to die right now. It is not a good place to be. I think they need to make a lot of changes. The other one is Tyler Myers, you just mentioned, and that it was already mentioned earlier today by Kevin Weeks. So Kevin Weeks is pretty good at being on top of these things. So that makes a lot of sense.
I love his videos. I love his half-face videos.
Just the way he makes it his, right? His brand. Vincent Trocheck, that's the other name. Look for right now. If they get the right prospect and picks, because they want a prospect and at least one pick, okay?
You're talking about Phil McCracken, according to the Wanderer?
Could be. You never know. Robert Thomas is the other one you could look at coming out of St. Louis. Now, it's going to have to be something good, right? Because they're what they're looking for. But if right now the Hurricanes are linked to Thomas, they have interest. But could it also maybe be a something for Braden Shen? So that is another one. And then don't forget Jordan Binnington just had what some say a really good Olympics. So their goaltending, they don't need Binnington to stay there now. This could be a chance where they move him. And then two more quickly. Steven Stamkos, keep your eye on. Nothing official coming out from anywhere. Few people. I'm just hearing some out of the Nashville area that are actually saying, pay attention.
Ryan O'Reilly too, I believe.
Ryan O'Reilly. We talked about that, I think, 3 weeks ago. But you guys get ready for this one. I did not think, and I'm hearing from some of the inside sources just a little bit of rumble. And now I got someone out in Ottawa that's connected through a friend. So this is a friend of a friend. So take it for what it's worth. I trust this friend. Very reliable. But they might have interest in Ottawa, where Uyghur's from. And Mackenzie Uyghur, they're open to trading him for the right price. Could you imagine if Ottawa can land him to go at, that would be astounding.
Yeah, and Zilstra asks, is Kadri willing to move now? Yes, he is. Yeah, he's had conversations with Craig Conroy in the organization. I think they realize that right now Calgary is rebuilding. They're trying to get ready to be competitive for that new arena that's coming in 2 years plus. I've heard about Rasmus Ristolainen, who's really a lot of teams have looked in, including Boston, Edmonton, a few others. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Teams that I think you have to keep an eye on that you're not hearing a lot of rumors, Steve Yzerman and Detroit. Watch for them to make a move, right? Now, it may not happen, but I think that he's going to have to do something because the Yzerman plan can't take forever. They're going to want to do something. We know he was trying to go after Quinn, but of course he wanted guarantee that there would be an extension. Go ahead.
Now, this is total speculation now, okay? With you mentioning, because one of the things that I'll take a look at what Timo's saying in a sec here. One of the things that you're talking about the Yzer plan, and the team is doing well. I know that they're really cautious about making some trade too quick, but what about a player like Shane Wright? This is total speculation. But if they're going to move him at some point, and Yzerman has a lot there, that to me could be a good fit. Nothing's out there, but that would be a good fit. What's Timo say?
So he was saying, let me just see here. Some super stupid team is going to pay like 2 firsts for Kadri, who's already declining. It has a 7x4 with a no movement clause. I mean, I can see it being a first conditional and a pick, a prospect. Iserman maybe pays for it. And then JJ Oilers, welcome to the show. Of all the players potentially available, who do you think ends up in Edmonton? So they're looking for a Matthias Ekholm kind of deal. Is it Perbix that's there in
that's
Nashville?
not
I think that's kind of what I've heard. Jake DeBrusk is somebody they've considered. Bobby McMahon, I heard that's quieted down.
Yeah,
they're going to try. I honestly think, as much as I know they want to bolster their up front, I think they're going to look on the back end.
Ristolainen right now, top four. They're working over that right now.
Kind of what they're looking. And until they get rid of Mangiapane, I don't think they can do much until they get that cap relief.
So Connor Murphy, they've been rumored in on a few times. And Ristolainen right now, some people don't think he'd be a good fit in Edmonton. I actually think his size could be a good fit on the second line. I actually don't think that's actually such a bad plan.
One name to keep an eye out, dark horse pick for Edmonton, I would say, to JJ Oilers is Brandon Carlo or Oliver Ekman-Larsson in Toronto. Keep an eye on those two. I think those two would be potentially there. Go ahead.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah, so thank you. I almost forgot and I didn't put it down in my notes. OEL, yes. Right now, that even though I believe he's a left shot though, right? But Wallman's been playing that side, so
Wallman just can't play the left side.
So the question though now remains: if you got Nurse and Ekholm, then are you putting OEL on your third line then?
No, I think you want a top four guy. So then you
can. So that means you're not putting. You're thinking OEL is better than
because you have Ekholm and Bouchard on the top line. You want to have someone with Nurse. I really think, I know people are going to laugh. I think Troy Stetcher helped Nurse, although he wasn't long-term the best. He had a good vibe there with him. But I really think on a Stanley Cup contender, Troy Stetcher's your seventh guy. Like, let's be honest. Right?
Can I tell you what I actually think in that mix? I never shared this, I don't think, on our show at any time. I think Troy Stetcher, he wasn't the best defenseman, but I think his speed made up and could track back to cover for Nurse. That's what I think happened. And so
he's a hard worker. Very hard worker. So, Zilch says still too many teams, either contenders or need to make playoffs.
But they're not really contenders. So that's what I think. If you got 5 teams you're fighting with and you don't think you've got someone good, really, right?
And Timu says, cannot say anything too confidential, but Ristolainen in the next few days. Yeah, I can see him being moved.
Thanks,
and again, Philadelphia, we've talked to
thanks, Timu.
We've talked to Jamie Baskow, who's a beat writer there for the Philly, and we've talked about how he kind of moved. And he was the one actually, Evan, if you recall, in episode, I think 3 or 4 when he came on, predicted that Quinn Hughes will be traded this season, which was a big, two-bomb drop. So he knows his team. He knows what's going on around the league. And then, of course, Zilstra says OEL and Nurse would be terrible.
Oh, I know. Well, and OEL, remember in Vancouver? Oh my gosh.
And again, I think goaltending is still an issue. So I think we have to figure out that something's going to happen. Keep an eye out for, again, 2 teams that I'm looking at really closely that there hasn't been a lot of talk, but I know they want to make a splash, is Detroit and Utah Mammoth. And you know that Ryan Smith wants to make an impact and he wants to get something.
Well, and it's been very quiet on that front right now with the Utah. Very little said. That tells me there's something going on. I think something's going on.
Yeah, and then Wanderer says with the Leafs losing 3-0 tonight to Tampa Bay, wonder if Oilers get OEL, as you said, will be great for us. I liked him when he was in Arizona. I liked him when he was in Vancouver. I know he didn't fit the system, but I think, he's not the player that he was. But once he went to Florida and he wasn't the top guy, he wasn't the guy, he was able to play the best. And he has a mean streak to him. If you watch Toronto games, he can really lay the body. So it's interesting to see what's happening. I'm excited.
Let's go back to Kadri for a sec.
Right, so let's go
I saw Timu commenting on Kadri. So I do not think Kadri goes for a first unless there's money that's going to get eaten. It's the only way at first. And
he's got 3 more years left, doesn't he?
I know. And at that money, and I know it's an underperforming year. A lot of people think it's just because of overall with the team. He's in good spirits, good everything like that. But yeah.
I will say JJ Oilers, because you're indicating
Regula. Oh man, Regula is terrible.
Regula's gonna fit. I think that could be a wave player. I think they want to drop him. I think Emberson is serviceable for what he does. But again, on a Stanley Cup contending team, is he really in your top six,
You need a
or
top four.
should he even be a seventh defenseman? Right?
So-
Stastny
so-
is all right.
So what about Connor Murphy? What's people's thoughts here?
But I don't know what's going on. And the Wanderer says you're right. OEL crosscheck Gonsalves after he scored and took a penalty. And then Timu says the best teams don't say shit until it happens. Remind ourselves. Dallas with Ratton and then signing Harley and Johnson long term. I agree. And can I just say Harley played very well for Canada. I think he was very underrated, and I like what Dallas has built there. I think Jim Nill has done a good job. He was one of the assistant GMs for Team Canada, and I think he could potentially be the main one.
Okay, I just pulled up the stat lines here. So what Timu's got there? Go ahead and read.
Timu's got Boston with Marchand in Florida, came out of nowhere. I agree. So did Casey Middlestad and even Kulak.
Absolutely.
You guys in overtime. Well, we're not there yet. We still have time.
Oh, we're not in overtime. Okay, listen, Connor Murphy. Wanderer's asking. I want you to see Connor Murphy is 6'4", 212 pounds, right shot defenseman. He is 32. Okay. Where's his contract right now? He's at 4.4 on his cap hit. Chicago has lots of room. Remember we met with Hart Levine, Puckpedia, our partner? When he came on, Chicago can eat anything. So he could take 50% to Edmonton. I just want you to think about this right now, okay? Because nothing right now, 12 points in 57. So he's got an average season, but this would be a third line, though. This could not be. So you still need Jake Wallman to play the off D side, which I don't have a problem with. He still suffered injury. He came back from his injury beginning of year, and he looked good those first games. Got hurt, and he's had some struggles since. So, and maybe Timu, you know what it's like when players come back from injury. They're really good, and then they have a struggle. Maybe you can mention, is that really a thing? I've never played professional hockey, so I'd like to know your take on that.
Well, I haven't either, so I couldn't really give a good one.
I'm asking Timu.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And Wanderer watch, a lot of scouts have been watching Murphy in Chicago, so it makes sense. And he wonders if Florida misses the playoffs, who do you think goes from the final? Tampa. I see Tampa being a powerhouse, although I thought they were going to be dynamic last year, and they got knocked out in the first round versus Florida. So I'm going to go dark horse again. I like the New York Islanders. Nobody expects them to be where they are. Listen, they're going to make the postseason. They can go far. I like Carolina, but they always struggle with scoring. I mean, I like Brandon Boosie and the signature and the signing they did there. I just think really it was Florida's team to him, but like you're going to have a team that doesn't expect it. The other one, and again, I know it could be wild. What if Buffalo makes it to the promised land again? They may not win, but I mean,
hang on. Makes it to the promised land again? They've been to the promised land, you mean?
Yeah, versus Dallas. Do you not remember when they made it?
Oh, you're talking about back in the Hasek days.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant they've been almost a decade and a half out of the playoffs.
Yes, yeah. But I'm saying Islanders or Buffalo could be sneaky good. And the reason being is
they're not going to play well in the playoffs.
Now, what's that?
I can't see them playing well in the playoffs. They're not tried and true. You got to know how to play playoff hockey. It's a different game.
You don't expect it. Remember when, what's your prediction? Give your prediction. Who's coming out of the East?
Tampa, because they're built for playoff hockey. Okay. Not only are they doing good right now, because they're built for playoff hockey. I think that's as long as there's no injuries to star players, I think. But they got depth right now. They built around that. And Cooper's good in those tight games. He is good at playing around that. Forget about the Team Canada thing. They moved on from Stamkos. Everyone was upset, and they used that money, brought in Getzel. Well, that sure worked well. I don't think they're complaining about that.
I think he's out for tonight's game. I think he was dealing with some injury.
And Carolina.
He's playing. I apologize. He's playing.
To me, Carolina still has the whole issue of goaltending in the playoffs. They need a goalie to win it for them.
I think it's scoring.
Yeah, and right now Vasilevsky is so. And let me just bring up something. In fact, because we're talking about this, guys, Vasilevsky's last 17 games. I pulled up the stat here. I saw it before we came on.
All right.
16 wins. Okay, 16 wins and one loss, a 190 goals against, and a 923 save in the last 17 games. He is playing all world hockey again. So you add that to some of the whoa, man, you know.
I agree. I agree. And
What's
JJ
JJ?
Euler asked, I've asked a bunch of people regarding it, but if you could reconstruct Darnell Nurse's contract, so what would you think he's relative worth the way defensemen are getting paid? I mean, of course, the cap's going up, and with COVID, that kind of limited things. I think when he went from, yeah, I would agree. I would say
in
no
today's
more
money.
than,
In today's money, if you could,
yeah.
if he had no contract and he gave up everything, and some other team signed him tomorrow, I think 7.5.
I think you get a little less because he's coming over from a team where if that contract ended, I mean, if like they step like for whatever reason, but I really think
Sam Girard's making making $5 million, right? So I mean, I pay Nurse way more than Girard.
So you're talking about Tampa Bay quickly, and before we jump over to the next question by Wanderer, I do want to say keep an eye out for Darren Radish because he's a UFA coming up this year. He's 29. He's a right shot defenseman. He's been playing top 4 minutes for that team, and he's very sneakily good, underrated. So most likely Julian Breezeball resigns him, but if he doesn't, watch him get 5 to 7 million on the open market for a long-term contract. And I could see Toronto putting in the bid there. So keep an eye out for that because he has been sneaky good, right? As for Wonder asking, don't you see Montreal challenging Tampa? Not with their goaltending right now. Their goaltending has struggled. Montreal needs to improve their goaltending in order to be competitive. However, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what if they get Binnington? That is the connection.
I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that. You know what? I could see that being an improvement. The one thing that Montreal still needs, and it's not a slight against them, they need a bit more size. They'll need a little bit more grit. You saw it last year in the playoffs versus Washington. Washington knew what they were doing, and they were pushing them around. Now, you have some guys like Josh Anderson who can come in and really compete, but I still think both goaltending, whether you get Binnington or not, and a bit of size. You need some snarl.
So I actually, we're just doing that wonder because I was thinking the same thing as Paz about their size. Just pulling up just roughly right now. And basically their team average for size and height. You're talking about 6'1" and about 200 pounds. That's their average size. That's not going to shake it. And so, they have all the skill. If they could get a goaltender, I think they could push, but I just think they're a couple big players away. That's really what they need, I think.
Could they get Florida's Sergei Bobrovsky as goalie?
That was another one that was mentioned. If they could,
I honestly think, barring anything wild, he will re-sign. There's been talks already internally with Bill Zito to re-sign him. The problem is what does he want? He has played out of all goalies right now in the last few years, the most hockey out of any player, including so many postseason games. It almost can amount to a third season extra with the 3 Stanley Cup final appearances, right? 2, of course, you win. But I really think that he will re-sign for a good short term. And I do want to state quickly, I love seeing Barkov on the ice again. I know you talked about it last week. But I also wanted to acknowledge how he had donated to the Children's Hospital there in Florida. It was a very cool thing for him to see do. So anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up? Because we're close.
We need to go back. I do. And these will be my final thoughts. So why don't I do this? And then you can share whatever final thoughts you have because of the timeline. No hockey history, no Revs top 15, guys. We had a lot of Olympics. First of all, I do want to say I didn't get to mention this. Very exciting. The Olympics featured 61. I went and did my numbers after last week. 61 PWHL women's players on rosters. Now, of course, US and Canada were heavy, but there were still about another 10 or so. And 7 PWHL rookies were part of the gold medal squad for the US Olympic team. really exciting to see that. So anyway, two things I do want to, I just want to mention a little bit. Normally this would be around the rink, guys, but we're just doing a wrap. So first of all, shout out to the BCHL and the Coquitlam Express for honoring victims of the Tumbler Ridge tragedy. They had a memorial. It was small, but it was a meaningful gesture from the team. So thank you to the Coquitlam Express of the BCHL. The other part is, and I'm going to talk about Gavin McKenna in a minute. And before all you guys get going into all these other things about, I want you to understand something with Gavin McKenna. Gavin McKenna has the best puck possession, okay, in the entire NCAA. So he is a mile above the next person above him for his puck possession ability. Yes, they talk about his defensive game. He very seldom does not have it. He is still only 170 pounds at 6'1", still growing in, building muscle right now where he is. He has definitely come on. He just scored 8 points, set a record. Now, not only that, but folks, Gavin McKenna, now he's ranked 1 in my Revs Top 15, and in 70% of all your drafts, that's where he's at. But his outdoor game jersey, $13,000 for the outdoor jersey before the Michigan game, went for. So how much will his jersey for the 8-point night go for? It's the first time ever in 39 years. And what about his OT winner? So he's got 10 points on the weekend alone, and he is right now neck and neck for points with Macklin Celebrini from 2 years ago. And I want to say this. Now, I'm not comparing them, but I'm wanting to say this. Someone says, well, you can't include an 8-point game. Yeah, you can. Just like if you don't include an 8-point game, then don't include a 0-point game. They all work the same right across the board. If they help you win, they help you win. And I think the true test is going to be how far can he carry this team, because this is not really as good a team as people are seeing. And that is because he's doing a lot more. Last thought, scouts, watching players, and Timu, you can talk towards professional or what you see with goalies, but all these scouts, I have talked to over 30 plus scouts of amateur scouting, and they're not watching the analytics. They're not watching the points and the plus minus to get a read on a player. What you don't understand is you get a better idea when you watch them without the puck. You get a better idea of their game. Where are they on the ice when they don't have the puck, right? Where do they skate when nothing is happening? How fast are they closing gaps? So if you really want, just for all you folks that just love watching the younger folk, or even some of amateur or some of the pro, go ahead and watch and rewind, even do on your TV. Try to see what are they doing when they don't have it. That's the key when you're trying to look and see where they are. And Gavin McKenna is always close and around. And I'm telling you, he is easily going number 1. This is ridiculous that this is a conversation.
Yeah.
All right,
last thoughts. We appreciate it. JJ Oilers says, great work, guys. We appreciate it. Your question in terms of the reason I ask is the Oilers ask him to move his no movement clause, trade him after this. I mean, anything is possible, but you want to get through the season first and see how it ends. Of course, it's a cup or bust season. That's what is expected in Oilers Nation. But we'll see what happens. The Wanderer says McKenna is going to be a Florida Panthers. Great show, lads. And then, of course, yeah, I mean, I think McKenna's still going to go number 1. I just, again, everything that happened over the last few weeks with information rolling in, this is why we don't make an immediate assessment. We don't jump for clicks. We just want to make sure we know all the facts, and we do check our sources to make sure that people know. The only thing I wanted to bring up, and I know it's just not a big thing, and normally it's around the ring, but the Bridgeport Islanders have relocated to Hamilton, Ontario for the 2026-2027 AHL season, making the return of minor league hockey back to the city. Wow. Now, people may not think it's a big deal. This is the Islanders AHL affiliate, but to have hockey back in Hamilton, Ontario, it's a big deal for that community. We've talked about it on previous episodes in the past about how Hamilton can be a city in Canada that can support another team. But I like this. And I look forward potentially, if I get an opportunity to go to Hamilton to go check out a game next year. That's it on my end. There's not much else. As Zylstra says, we are two guys in overtalk, overtalking. But that's pretty much it on our end. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? Evan?
No, I just saw Joe's last thought saying that because she's been following quite a bit in the NCAA and said that right now Gavin McKenna is logging more ice time than 96% of all defensemen.
Yeah. So that's incredible. So on that note, guys, we are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are on Facebook, on YouTube, on X/Twitter at hockey_2 or at Revenev, and on Instagram. We are on some other social media platforms. Give us a follow, give us a like. We appreciate it. It goes a long way. Make sure to leave a comment. We love hearing from you guys. Tonight was a phenomenal episode of you guys discussing, throwing ideas, like us, throwing spaghetti to the wall and seeing what sticks. But we love hearing from you. We want to say thank you to all our sponsors. Of course, once again, thank you for partnering. And if you want to partner with Two Guys in Hockey Talk, feel free to reach out to our email at twoguysinhockeytalk.com or go to our website where you can check out the latest, the greatest, and our former guests on the show. Of course, that is it. We will be back here next Wednesday, 7 p.m. to talk all things hockey with the NHL in full swing, the trade deadline approaching, with the playoffs and postseason coming up. Lots to get through to talk. So make sure you follow us.
That's awesome.
Of course, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you feel better next week so you're ready to yell and give us a rant or two. We're getting into Around the Rink and a few others. Go ahead.
Well, and if I can just say, so next week I'm actually gonna be with Zill over in I'll be in Chilliwack and kind of enjoying. I got to go out there for work, so I will be joining in, probably maybe even from my car if I get stuck on the highway on the way back. So we'll see, because their time zone is different. They're another hour behind us. But hey, having said all that, guys, as we do every week, we say in the meantime and in between time. That's it.
Keep your
another
sticks.
edition.
Stay safe. Have a good night. Enjoy, guys. Thank you so much. Cheers.